welcome to our 91st Ask the Coach session. This is our fortnightly session where we get 3 coaches online to answer questions, things that have been happening right now, things they're getting asked all the time. If you've got any questions that you want to ask, put them in the chat or in the comments if you're on LinkedIn, Facebook or YouTube. I'll be going and checking those as we go through. I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the Recruiting Gym, and let's find out a little bit more about our coaches. Katharine, I'm coming to you first. I think you're the person that's probably been on Ask the Coach the most. So if you can introduce yourself to people, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Katharine and I'm your sourcing coach in the Recruiting Gym. I also have my own business, Cup and Saucer, and hopefully I'm here to answer some questions today. So if you've got any sourcing questions, do pop those in the chat. Always happy to help.
Fantastic. Katrina, this is your 3rd time, I think, on Ask the Coach, but it's been over a year. So introduce yourself.
I do. Katrina Collier, 20-year veteran of the industry. I'm probably best known as the author of The Robot Proof Recruiter. However, I have a new book, Reboot Hiring, which is one to give your very naughty managers and company leaders. And I do a lot of facilitation and speaking and just generally asking the profession to be more human.
Fantastic. And yes, so you've been on our book week twice. So the 3rd one we probably need to get organised soon. Another author that's been on our book week twice is Steve Guest. Welcome, Steve. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Morning. Yeah, I'm Steve Guest. So I've been recruiting for 20 years. I've authored 3 books. Top Biller was the first one. That's the one that most people seem to have read. I run an online recruitment training program based in the Midlands. I still recruit now and run a small recruitment business.
Fantastic. So feel free, authors, to put the links to your books in the chats. We don't mind a little bit of plugging on there. So happy to hopefully get your books out to more people as well. Katharine, we need to write a book. Work out on there. So this is Ask the Coach, where we get individuals to answer your questions. We've got 6 pre-asked questions already. So we're going to tackle those. We've got 45 minutes and we're going to try and keep it to time, as the last question is all about time management. So our first one is Katharine. So I'm going to stick you there first of all. Let's bring the question up as well. So what we're looking at is, how do you effectively build your personal brand? Now, obviously, we've all involved in this. We'd love to hear some of your comments. Oh, you're on mute.
I thought I'd unmuted, obviously not. There we go, start as we mean to go on. Yeah, I'm hoping the others will chime in on this, because I feel like it's one of those things that I used to feel like I was good at, and now I feel like I struggle a lot. So maybe that's, I can relate to the struggle of the person asking this question. I mean, certainly in a couple of weeks' time, we are doing Meet Your Recruiter Week again, which is something that I came up with really because I felt like I needed it. It's a LinkedIn posting challenge. So we give you a prompt each day of the week to help you post something on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can post that in other places. You can always repurpose your content as well. But yeah, I often feel like, what I've got to say isn't good enough, that I'm not consistent enough. Okay, I've got things to say right now, but will I have something to say next week? Am I going to be able to build on what I'm saying, or is this just a one-off, and therefore is it even worth doing? It's all questions that I start asking myself. So I've definitely found having supporters around me helpful. Like Angela, there's sort of a whole little group of us that we've sort of found through Meet Your Recruiter Week that are really good at seeing each other's posts now. The algorithm is quite good at surfacing that stuff, and just generally supporting each other's activities on platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever your audience happens to be. And that consistency piece, something I'm trying to be much better at right now, but also not stressing then when I can't be consistent, because I think that's really derailed me in the past. Like, for example, today I don't have a new sourcing challenge to post for my sourcing challenge newsletter, because I've just had far too busy a week. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to abandon it. Okay, I'm going to be honest that there isn't a new one today, and then we're going to post one next week. and everything's going to be fine. Nobody's even going to notice, probably. Otherwise, if you get too stressed about it, then you just stop doing it. I think that's definitely the trap I've fallen into in the past. I'd also say having a few hooks is helpful. Just things that you talk about, a little list of topics that you know you could always come back to, that people will know you for. I realised a little while ago that every time I do one of these lives, I should probably have a cup of tea, because Angela said to me, oh, I can tell you're not at home or in your usual office because you've got a plain cup a few weeks ago. And I usually have some kind of appropriate, jazzy, geeky, guinea pig related mug that I'm drinking a cup of tea out of. And I realised, oh, that's part of my personal brand.
The guinea pigs are definitely part of your
play into that a little bit, you know. So it's just, being aware of what people are picking up about you can just help give you confidence, or a prop or something. I
think that's a really honest answer there, Katharine, because I think you've said a lot of things there that the rest of us are all saying to ourselves in our heads, but not necessarily answering. And you're right, because social media, it does stress us out, and we do think we should be better than what we are. Katrina, I can see you nodding a lot. What would you like to add to that?
Well, firstly, you went, oh my God, you're in green, because clearly I'm obviously in orange a lot. So that just made me laugh when I came on live. So I guess, I mean, adding to that as well, it's like, I think there's personal brand, as in somebody's going to look at your LinkedIn profile and just check that you're adding value. You're not writing crap comments. And I think actually, I mean, I had one this morning. It was a response to a post, and it's so clearly written with ChatGPT. Nobody put their brain into gear and realized it sounded like it. They hadn't changed the wording. So it's like, make it human and keep it really human. But I also think we're spending all this effort putting stuff out on LinkedIn. Now, if you're not, it's my target audience. It's actually all of our target audience. But if you're not recruiting recruiters, salespeople, entrepreneurs, and marketers, why are you on there? Like, why are you spending so much time getting people to comment on posts on there? It's quite silly. Yeah, great, share a post, but not worry about it. Like, just go be where your potential candidates and your potential clients are active. And most likely that's not LinkedIn. And I think sometimes we forget that side of it as well, which then adds the pressure. And I can assure you the algorithm has turned down all of our content, which is just extraordinary. I don't know why they do that, why they think that would keep people active on the platform, but.
Well, that's it. I mean, recruiters make that platform from my point of view. So not promoting us. We've all seen a huge change in the algorithm this year, and we've gone through a lot of that on other posts. Steve, what's your comment on this?
Well, I love LinkedIn and the personal branding journey. I would say probably 70-75% of my placements last year were based off the posts that I put onto LinkedIn. We don't use any of the upgraded licenses to headhunt or do anything like that. The majority is directly from the network that I've created over the years of mixing within the talent that's out there, the clients and candidates that I actively market with. And what people don't necessarily always realise is, whilst the content is there, and yes, you want likes and comments and interaction because it makes the posts go further, but actually everything that happens for me is, okay, firstly, it's a message through LinkedIn. I'm looking for a role, or I need to fill this position. But everything else then happens off the platform.
Right.
But I use it on a way to, I suppose, effectively market that I'm busy. I've got lots of vacancies, and I'm within the market that my network or list of contacts are watching what I'm doing. So I'm presenting to them an active recruitment business that has lots of opportunities for either candidates or clients. And it is effective.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because it's not necessarily how much you post, is it? But is it helpful what you're actually posting? And I'm the same. If I'm looking to work with someone, I'll go down and look at their posts. I'm not looking at when they did it necessarily, but I'm looking at what is it, and is it interesting, and is it someone that I think should be part of my tribe, as it were, and that's there. So that's, I think, much more important than just trying to do it. So if it's going to be consistent, it could be once a month is consistent for you. Don't get too stressed about it, but make sure that you're sharing stuff that is important. Thank you for that, everyone. Lots of key pieces in there. I'm going to put Katrina up and we'll hit on question 2. I really like this. We've never had this question. So when I saw it, or different forms of it. I mean, if you think we've done 6 questions for 91 times, so there's over 540 odd questions that we've gone through. So to see one that was totally different to anything I've seen before, I was like, oh, yeah. So how do I get managers to attend the kickoff meeting? Yes.
Yeah. I'm stunned that you don't get that. I mean, I do tend to work a lot more with talent acquisition than I do with agency side. But when I present to agents, like so at Rec Expo, which I know we're going to talk about, I have had people say they work off job descriptions. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, what? Like, how can you possibly work off a job description? Because as we all know, that meeting is for far more than just that. So the problem I get is that the managers won't turn up. Of course, if you're an in-house recruiter and you've asked multiple times, you can actually turn the job requirement off in the applicant tracking system, and that will soon get their attention and they'll soon turn up. And I know a lot of recruiters that do that because they just get fed up. Interesting. I was having this conversation with Glenn Martin this morning to make sure I was properly ready to answer this question. And he was saying as well, if you're doing it on a retained basis, it's part of the agreement that you will have that conversation with the manager. They're paying you for that. They're paying for you to do a proper search. So if you're on that retained basis, there should be absolutely no excuse. They should be buzzing to come and talk to you. On a contingent, it comes down to your value proposition. Again, this is from Glenn, stolen information, but making sure that you set yourself apart from all of the other recruiters vying for their attention. And I would be saying no meeting, no working on the role. And I know that sounds really bold, but again, what happens when somebody leaves a role is they tend to pull out whatever job description was last used. You know, that's what Catherine had. We need another Catherine. And actually they don't. They need an Angela going forward. And your job is to say, well, what do you need forward? What's happening in the future? What projects are they going to work in? What problems are they going to solve? And that's, you can't do that off a job description. And then obviously you then want to get cement into place. Well, when do you need someone to hire? Great. Can we block some time out for interviews? Can we make sure that you've got a sub? What happens if you're off sick? Who's going to interview? Who else can I talk to? How do you want to be communicated with? You know, Catherine and Angela were just saying how much they hate WhatsApp on the desktop. So they probably don't want a WhatsApp message, but they might want an email. Someone else will want a Slack. Like, how do you want to be communicated with? And that's what that meeting's about. And it's funny because so much of the reason I wrote Reboot Hiring was because of the disrespect I see from managers towards recruiters and avoiding that meeting, and everything that's broken in recruitment stems from that not happening, and that they would save time, money and hassle by turning up to that meeting and being really respectful and putting all of the things in place. And then of course, yes, you can talk about if they're being unreasonable, if they're asking for unicorns, all that sort of stuff. For anybody who's working in-house listening to this, my goodness, if you do not want to be replaced by technology, and I have seen the companies trying, we know it's not going to work, but they're going to try because they're under pressure to try from their boards and from shareholders to cut costs. You must have that meeting and you must start showing your value. It is really, really critical that that happens now. I think it could be great times ahead for agency, because I do think that they're going to try and reduce the size of TA and realize that will fail and then go out to agents. So that could be quite interesting, but you've got to have that meeting. Angela, you're muted, which is quite hilarious.
I saw your mouth the other platforms checking things and they were pinging, so I'll mute myself. We're all going to do it at some point today, maybe. Yeah, but there's so many benefits to that kickoff meeting when you're recruiting, getting it all to start with. You save so much time in the long run, don't you? You make sure the match is right. You really understand it, and that's
you've got to talk about the manager. It can't be that it's great for you. The manager doesn't care that it's great for you. They only care how it impacts them and their workflow and their projects. So that's just No,
we've got loads of that. And actually, I can see Catherine and Steve both want to weigh in on this one. So far away. Steve, if you want to go first.
Okay, well, I'm old school. So I am that recruiter that says I'm not going to work on it unless I have the meeting, because I suppose I always work on the basis that if I don't have the information, I don't have the facts, and I don't understand the role or the requirement to the degree that I've got to go and then speak to candidates to sell it to them, then there's little point in me even starting. So my view to any manager or client is Talk to me about how you'll sell the role. Why should people come and work for you? Why would they want to work here? What would you do if you were doing my role? If I can get all of that, it makes my job a lot easier. And it also allows me to answer the questions to candidates in the first instance, to then shortlist the right people to get to them, which saves a lot of time and effort in the process. And also makes me look better because I'm sending better candidates, makes the candidates better fit because it's exactly what the client's looking for. And I suppose when I'm pushing to get that initial meeting, it's always to the benefit of the client, because this will help you in the long run have a better shortlist, a better selection, and ultimately hope to get the best candidate. If you don't do any of that and you want a shoddy process with whoever applies or fits the role because the job spec says yes, go for it, but it's not for me.
This is where we can see that AI can't have those type of conversations. It's not going to get that level of detail. Catherine, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd just say that, if you're in-house and you're working in partnership with a sourcer, or you're in an agency and there's a resourcer and a sort of recruiter partnership, please both of you go along. That's really valuable as well. And like Katrina said, with you get the job description, which is the one that they used the last time they hired, and they think they want a Catherine and really they want an Angela. I can look at that job description and have 5 profiles to take to the meeting. It might be somebody's LinkedIn profile, or it might be a CV from our ATS, and how fast the hiring manager will tell you that you're wrong is just really valuable. You immediately go, oh, okay, yeah, you want an Angela. This job description isn't working. Let's get that right first.
Because sometimes they don't know what they want, do they?
And it saves you all that time. I could have had conversations with those 5 people, got them interested, and then the hiring manager says no. So that time saved, that's got to mean something to them as well.
It's not only the time saved. Actually, there were 2 things you said there. One is that something like 82% of managers are accidental managers. So they haven't actually been trained how to lead their people, let alone how to recruit. So that's something to always remember when they're avoiding the meeting, is they probably don't know what to do. So it's like really just to give them that comfort. Now I've forgotten what the second thing was you just said. You said the source is staying in the meeting.
While you're thinking, I'll just reiterate that we're doing a lot in-house at the moment, and it's companies training. Yes, they're recruiting team, but actually we're training all the hiring managers on how to interview, because they've not been trained. We forget now.
I would take it back a step, and this was the thing I found really interesting. There is so much information about how to interview. There isn't any, hence again the book, how to articulate who you need to hire. And that was, hence I was nodding along when Catherine said take the sourcer in as well, because you hear 2 different things.
Yes, because Catherine, you've got
they don't know how to say, like, who do I actually need? So I love that trick with the taking the profiles. That's brilliant. They go, we don't want one of those.
And that's it. They can soon say, we used to always take CVs along, and that takeaway close, if you're there and you get the information and then you say, okay, well, I had these, but actually no, and they go straight away. They're like, okay, yeah, no, I can see what I'm paying for. And I would have wasted time.
I remember what I was going to say, because it's not only just your time, it's the reputation. So if Catherine had spoken to those 5 people and they go, oh, they just messed me around and wasted my time. And because a lot of the time people don't go back to those people, which then leaves them down or depressed because they think they're talking about a real role. So there's also that aspect, the employer brand and the mental health. So,
and then that's your personal brand taking a knock as well. So that helps to answer question 1.
You've just alienated 5 people that you might want a year from now. Or might know the ideal person.
All good stuff, and certainly from people that have been there, done it, we know the implications of getting that first bit wrong and all of the issues that it can cause. So let's go and do it properly. Brilliant. Steve, let's move on to your one now. So how do you stay structured? We know recruitment is so reactive that trying to get yourself structured and organised isn't the easiest thing to do. So over to you. How do we stay structured?
It isn't easy, and I think my experience in recruitment as well is the type of individual that tends to be a recruiter tend to be relatively unstructured anyway. It's that kind of enjoyment of being out there in the firing line, making the calls and enjoying the sell, but actually sometimes going through the process of being structured can be a little bit hit and miss whilst we have a kind of generalised plan. And I think I've lived a recruitment life of being almost the opposite kind of individual as a recruiter. Completely different character traits. I'm a high C on a disc profile. I am your kind of heavy detail, meticulous, borderline OCD process procedure. So I would never expect every recruiter to be as structured as me, but taking elements actually has helped over the years of coaching and working with recruiters. I still use my month plan that I've used and developed over the years, that it just gives me structure. And I think the structure comes from the basics of knowing, I know what numbers, what KPIs, what I need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to achieve my financial targets. And I think if there's recruiters that are in here or listening or watching that don't know that, they need to get to the basics of understanding actually what it is they have to do on a day, a sales session, a day, a week, or a month to achieve what they're setting out to achieve. And I firmly believe if you know that, it keeps you structured anyway. The bits in my life that keep me motivated, my family, making sure we have opportunities, nice holidays, and enjoy the life that we have, boils down to the fact that if I'm feeling unmotivated on a morning and I don't want to make that first call or whatever it might be, actually the structure of knowing I've got to achieve certain tasks in a day to achieve my financial goals, to then enjoy the fruits of your labours, so to speak, then it keeps me moving, gives me that momentum. So having a plan, knowing your numbers, knowing what you've got to achieve to get to your goals and targets, and have confidence in the process that you're actually doing, because you know the numbers work. Belief in the activity that you're doing. How many calls does it take? How many jobs do you need to be working on? How many CVs do you need to get out? How many interviews do you need to arrange? They're all important factors and form part of that structure for you to go out and achieve. And I think quite a lot of the time, consultants are perhaps given KPIs or certain things that the business wants them to work to, but the individual doesn't understand the basis behind the numbers and therefore isn't perhaps as motivated to achieve them. If you know yourself as an individual what you've got to do, you're more likely to stick to the structure. I'm very much a visual person, so I like to tick off numbers, have lists, have my ABC tasks, my most important against the ones that I can leave till tomorrow. I like to see how many CVs I've sent out and put them down. Have I sent all my new introduction emails across to new clients? And I like a visual impact at the end of the day to be able to say, yeah, I'm happy with that. I've achieved what I've needed to.
And this is the essence of your first book, isn't it? So that top biller, people from the cover might think, okay, yeah, here's your typical alpha recruiter, whatever we want to call them. But it was the epitome of the opposite of that, wasn't it? I've lost the word. To be able to be structured, be that systematic process person. It's not all about the big rah-rah. It's about making sure, and actually that's what I saw with recruiters as well. It's the consistent, structured ones that were really successful. The others, they'll have peaks and troughs. They'll be all over the place. But actually, if they do it in a structured way, then you've got that constant pipeline and building of that. We have got a couple of comments that I just want to pick up from the last bit that's just come through. Jay, thank you for these. He's saying in some firms, TA will not do a search if a kickoff meeting isn't scheduled. So can you afford to say no? But also for vanilla roles, if you could just give us a little bit more info on what a vanilla role would be. And also for bulk hiring, probably unrealistic for hiring managers to agree to a kickoff meeting. I would disagree with that. I mean, we certainly, if you've got bulk roles, you're now not just thinking about one that could have an impact. I mean, the biggest we did was 1,000 in one go, but oh my goodness, did we have a kickoff meeting to make sure that we knew exactly what we were recruiting for. So just give us a little bit more detail on the vanilla ones. I'm just thinking, is that bland roles? But why would that be any different? Katrina?
I guess I mean the ones that repeat, maybe, where it's like, or it's really obvious. So There's a case study in the Robot Proof Recruiter from Yodel where they're recruiting drivers. They recruit drivers. It's drivers. What do you need? A driver's license and a clean record. Like it's really obvious. And can you carry a package? So actually that might be a vanilla role where you're not really going to have a conversation with the hiring manager over that. And actually that's where they used a conversational chatbot to be able to screen and give responses. And it's amazing because it'll answer at 11 o'clock at night when recruiters aren't online. So perhaps that's what they're talking about. I had a great conversation with Prem Kumar from Humanly, and some of the stuff they're doing with their conversational AI as well is amazingly helpful for the high volume roles. But if you're going to have a manager, which is what's happening because they have a lot of what they call deskless employees, so it's a lot of retail, the manager still has to understand like how to articulate who they need to hire, but also the sales side that both Steve and Catherine have talked about as well is like, why come and work at our store? What are the benefits? So there is still an education piece. And I think until you've really had a few meetings with your management team, but even just the process steps of, what's going to happen after the conversation, after the interview, what happens next, who's going to pick up this bit, who's going to pick up that bit. I always say with TA, it's a partnership. You're saying to the manager, they're doing that, you're doing this, and together you fill the role. And it's the same for external, of course, that you are together in partnership filling that role. And I think that's sometimes a bit of a challenging concept because of there's a bit of a power imbalance. But that helps them with the steps, and then that helps with the candidate experience. And with high volume, it's often in retail. If you've treated them badly, they're not going to come and buy from you. What's that cost to the bottom line? And on it goes. So
and it's lovely to hear you talk about chatbots and AI as well in some positive ways.
Just to be clear, in fact, in front of me, I have the words anti-shit tech written down because that's what came out of my conversation with Kumar. I am not anti-technology at all. In fact, I was laughing because I when you go into LinkedIn and you message someone, you haven't messaged them since 2013. And the message was, let's jump on a Google Meet or a Skype, which just really made me laugh because most recruiters were probably still using the phone back then and I was doing Skype. And it was just like, yeah, I'm not anti-tech. I'm anti-shit tech. I'm anti-tech being used to deliver a poor experience, to be used to hide behind, to ghost applicants and so on. So
brilliant.
Yeah, let's just clarify that. The Robot Proof Recruiter is tongue in cheek.
Like that. Like it. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Catherine, I'm going to bring you on for question 4. And we're halfway through. So at this point, I do want to say thank you to JobAdder, not shit tech, that can definitely help you get organized. We've just done a building pipeline series with them, actually. They're our 6th academy with them, where we give free training for their customers, but also everyone else. So I'll put that link in here as well, because it was all about building pipeline. But again, some of the stuff they've got in their CRM to help you to do that, so you don't have to do it all manually, all that automation that does work, so you can spend time on the conversations. Loved it. Right. Oh, okay. Yes, we get this twice a year. So question 4, Catherine, it's the Recruitment Agency Expo next week. Woo-hoo. Is it worth going?
Okay, well, the flow chart of should I go to Recruitment Agency Expo, I think starts with, are you involved in agency recruitment? If the answer is no, maybe not. That's quite an easy one. I think the answer will be it depends for everybody. And I mean, I can tell you that I'm going this time. I'm just going to go for one day rather than both days. And I can tell you why I'm going. I'm going because I get to catch up with people. Angela's going to be there on day 1. Angela's speaking, I believe, with Steve. So that's awesome. Yes. Get to meet some people face to face. For me, it's really worth going to connect, to learn a few things, discover a few new pieces of tech, probably see a few different people speak that I've never seen speak before, make a few new LinkedIn connections. That's worth it for me. But I suppose for recruiters, I'm thinking, well, the calculation for, is there going to be ROI on this is going to be different for everyone. So I might sort of say, the most obvious reason to go would be, are you at the very beginning of some kind of purchasing journey? You know, are you looking for a new partner to help you with some back office stuff, or are you looking for a new technology supplier, or do you have a problem that you need to solve and you're not really sure how to solve it? Do you need some help with training? You know, if you're at the beginning of that journey and you just want to meet some suppliers, it's a great place to go for that, because there's tons, and you can really plan that in advance as well, because you know who all the exhibitors are, you know who all the speakers are. You can, you know, really make a good plan of, you know, what you're going to do and who you're going to talk to. There's also the question of, well, okay, if you're not shopping for something, is the content relevant? You know, or do you actually improve relationships with existing suppliers by going along? You know, I know that, you know, organizations like Team and stuff will often have a stand. So if you're a member, would it be useful to just go and check in, you know? So those are all good questions to ask. And then I guess the other side of the ROI on attending events is, you know, is it actually worth the investment? So whether that's time, I think probably the biggest investment for going to something like the expo is probably the day out of the office or the 2 days out of the office. And then the rest of it, you can kind of do as cheaply or as expensively as you want. It's free to register to attend. So that bit is quite different to a lot of conferences. So from that point of view, it's quite accessible. But you've still got to weigh up, is it actually worth the day out of the office? And how many people is it worth the day out of the office for? You know, do you stay overnight and do both days? Do you live locally enough and don't have to? Yeah, so I think there's quite a bit to think about. I suppose in the past, we've done it and we've stayed over, usually when we're speaking or we've got a stand or something like that. But this time I'm not speaking. So I'm just going to go for 1 day. I'm going to drive up there. I'll just pay for like my parking and some lunch probably. So it won't. So the main expense for me will be that just sort of day away from my desk, really. So yeah, it's quite flexible in how much you put into it. But I would say definitely make a plan if you decide you're going to go. Who do you want to talk to? What's going to get you some good value out of it and make it worth taking the day. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has any other perspective on attending events, or particularly the expo.
Yeah, Steve, you're going to be there with me next week. We're doing the panel that's based on my life in recruitment. So there'll be 5 of us up on stage, 11:30 on the Elevate stage. I've put the link in there for everyone. What else would you like to add?
For me, I think the expo, I've been pretty much every year. I think I always go with some specific things that I want to get out of it, and it generally is people I want to go and chat to. So I'll almost kind of pre-arrange a coffee or a catch-up, or it might be specific guest speakers that I actually want to go and listen to that might have or I might have interest in terms of running the recruitment business. So if we're looking at, as you say, new tech, or it might be looking at different ways of advertising or promoting who we are. For me, I'm there a couple of hours tops. It's kind of in and out, meet the people I need to go out to meet. When I worked years ago, when I was perhaps a consultant and purely doing a consultative role, it tended to be lots of leaflets, lots of booklets. I'd go back to the office and never open them ever again. And you'd sit there and think, what did I actually get out of that? That was probably a bit naivety on my side, and not actually having a goal or a reason to go there. And you tend to find you just kind of wandering around, seeing who you know. These days, it's very specific, and I'm kind of there for meeting particular people.
Yeah, there needs to be a purpose, doesn't there? If you're going to take a day out of the office. Katrina, are you there? Because you're not speaking this time, are you?
No. I'll do London, but yeah, no, Birmingham is too far. Louise knows that. She's used to me. I think a lot of people are there for the talks, obviously for the learning, etc. But what I want to say, because there are concurrent sessions, and I might offend the speakers, but don't feel like you have to stay. So if you sit in a talk and it isn't what you thought it was going to be, don't feel like you have to stay sitting there either. People leave your session.
You see, I've never done that. There have been times I've wanted to, where I'm halfway through. It's again, you just say, oh, that seems really difficult.
But it's not. It is what it is. I mean, one, it makes you a better speaker. Like last week at In-House Recruitment Live, nobody left my session. It was overflowing. It was a wonderful feeling. And everyone was watching as well. They were looking up. They weren't in their phones. So that means the speakers need to be better, which I think is important. But also I've had it. So Munich earlier in the year, once I started speaking and they realized I was speaking in English, quite a few people left the room. And I was like, oh, well, fair enough. You know, people leave for all sorts of reasons, but I just think it can be quite awful when you sit down for a talk and you're like, this doesn't resonate with me. I'm not enjoying this. I'm not learning anything. Get up and go to another talk, particularly just because of the fact that they can clash. You've only got limited time. So. I know that's controversial. I will have upset some speakers.
Yeah, but no, you're true. I've done it once on a training course. I've probably been on 40, 50 training courses, but I'd been booked on one through my company. And when I got there, even though we'd had the agenda and everything, it was something totally different to what we expected. I don't know how it was so wrong, but I went to them at the break and I said, I'm really sorry, but yeah, this is not for me. Spending a whole day here learning something that's not relevant to me or my job or my company. So I've done it once. Yeah.
Do that and don't apologize.
Yeah.
You just go, this isn't what you sold me, and leave. You know, this isn't what I'm here for, and leave. They don't apologize, because the speaker should be fine with it.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Learn that. Van speaks all over the world, and she's put on there as well. Agree with that. My talk's not for you. You're welcome to leave. And apologies, guys. I was looking at all the comments in the other 3 places. I forgot to look here because I was on the question page. So there's been loads of questions on here that we should have probably highlighted. So Alan, to build a personal brand, start by talking to yourself. Who are you? How do you want to be seen and known? And how does it relate to your target audience? That's my 2 penny worth. Then, of course, be honest and authentic. And if you can throw the odd grandchild in, then that could help. So Alan's got his grandchildren. Katharine's got her guinea pigs. I must admit, I tend to have my pugs quite a lot. Yeah, it needs to be dogs on there. But again, it's who are you? What are you doing? We're back to that point. So yeah, lovely to see you all on there. And Therese, don't worry if you're late. These are all recorded. You can watch the beginning again later. Okay, we're doing really well. Let's get to question 5. So Katrina, you'll be staying. And this one, we knew AI and automation was going to come in here somewhere. So it is everywhere. Everyone's
so I have to start with Job Adder is not shit tech. Job Adder is excellent tech. I like Job Adder.
It is very good. So what do we think its future is for recruiters? So this is your opinion, your views. We'd love to hear it from the Robot Proof Recruiter.
Yeah. Where do we start? It was really funny because, when I wrote the Robot Proof Recruiter, so Kogan Page, the publisher, came to me and asked me if I'd like to write a book. And I went, oh my God, yes, please let me write a book about the utter BS that technology can do a recruiter's job, because it can help, but it can't do it. So that's why that job title, the book title, that's why I wrote it about, human first, technology supporting, etc. But when I started writing Reboot Hiring, was like, we're now into 2024, Gen AI is all the buzz. If you Google what are the top priorities for CEOs, it is roll out Gen AI because they're under pressure from their shareholders. I said that earlier. But there also is pressure for them to do it without thought. There's pressure without, just get it out. And it's like, okay. So I started seeing examples of companies who've genuinely tried to automate the entire process. We know that's hysterical, right? We know that it's not a good thing. You can automate parts of it. And, what Job Adder's doing with helping you with your content, that's what you said that was doing, didn't you, Angela, with the content? Yeah. I do know what they do, but I'm having a mental blank. CRM. The conversational AI, that can help you keeping people through the process, providing them the transparency that they want, doing all of that. But it can't replace that human connection, that sales job. As Steve was saying, why should someone come and work for you? That's the sales. That's the getting under the skin of that human being. But I tell you, if in-house recruiters and talent acquisition don't start showing their value to the business, somebody will look at a spreadsheet and say, you're a cost center, be gone. We're going to try and automate it. And that's when agency world will be sitting here going, yeah, bring it on. But that I genuinely see that happening. And I just feel that talent acquisition has just been through it so much in the 2020s that there's so much job insecurity that they're keeping their heads down in the sand. And it's like, okay, raise your heads up, work out, what is this AI? What can it actually do? What can't it do? You know, do stuff like type into ChatGPT. Actually, Van did this on her presentation, like pirates, and it brought up all white men. Put in CEO, it brings up all white men. Show the bias. Show where it's fictitious. It comes up with just stuff that's not real. It's gathered all this data from across the world that's heavily biased in itself, and then it comes up with stuff that just isn't factual. So it's like knowing all of those elements so that when you start to have the conversation with your C-suite, when they start to pressure to just get rid of you, automate the whole process, cut headcount, you can go, oh, hang on a minute. Let's just look at whether this can actually do what we do. But I feel, what's the question again? What do we think? It's the future. I think you'll have a great future if you start now in every single conversation that you have with your managers, explaining what you do, you know, that partnership agreement. Why it's not easy, because everyone thinks recruitment's easy. We probably do find it easy now. We've got 20 years in the game, but it wasn't easy, right, when we started, and it's not easy for managers because they're not trained again. And that, so what is it that you do and how do you bring in value? But the biggest thing I want you to know is who your star hires are. Who did you hire? So for an agency, for a client that did something amazing, or for your company, who did you hire that made a massive difference to the bottom line, that brought in X amount of sales, that, you know, did this, that, and the other? Recruiters don't seem to know those. And that shocked me, because I went to like our band of merry people, the recruiters, and went, tell me about your star hires, guys, and got no response. Researching that bit for Reboot Hiring was really tough. So know those. So when the CFO goes, I'm going to automate you, and you go, just let me tell you about the last 5 hires before you do that. You know, I did blah, 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 blah. And they'll be like, oh, hang on a minute. You want some money from some good tech, do you? You're staying. You want headcount? Yeah, sure. It's switch the conversation around.
No, I love that. And we're all a lot more aware of it now. We can see where it's falling down. Those biases are coming in. We're getting to see more.
They're enormous.
Yeah, which is brilliant, because then we can challenge it, and we can say, right, well, let's make sure that we are using our brains with it.
Gather the data, like gather the facts, so that you can actually make an argument. And again, the argument has to be about how the business is going to save time, money, and hassle. It can't be about you. And that's, I think, another problem that happens. So, and you've popped a course there, but does that course cover articulating who you need to hire?
It does. It's got
there's nothing out there.
There you go. I stuck the leadership and management essentials link in there for people that aren't trained as leaders, as it's come up twice today. So I'll pop it in there. Right, I'm going to get on to the last question so that we can actually get it in before we
did I take 4 whole minutes, did I?
We did. So how to manage your time effectively. Steve, we're going to come to you for that last question. And well, maybe 2 minutes isn't effective enough, but we got there.
2 minutes is fine. So you always hear the comments, don't you? Everyone has the same 24 hours, and yet some seem to achieve so much more. And I think it's always down to how time is managed. I'm an early riser. I'm always up 5:30. Top biller was wrote between 5:30 and 6:30 before consultants even got to the office. That was me creating time to achieve a goal that I suppose at the time was outside what I was expected to do in a day. I don't expect people want to get up at 5:30. Not everybody wants to do that. I think it's about creation of time, but also being pretty selfish with your time and putting a value on it. It's having the ability to say no to tasks or things that perhaps don't help you get to where you need to get to. It might just be a temporary no because I'm working on this for now, and you delay it for a lunchtime or an after work conversation or task. I think for me, I'm very specific. When I had a big team of consultants, it was very much sales core hours, 9 till 12, 2 till 5. The bits in between were your downtime to do your non-income generating type tasks or have your conversations over coffee or whatever it might be. It's about allocating time to be able to achieve what you set out to achieve. I've worked with lots of busy consultants, lots of individuals that are on the phone all day, but quite often they can be working to someone else's agenda or just busy answering the phone because they don't necessarily have a plan or tasks ahead for what they should be working on to achieve what they need to do. I created something called the 21-day challenge as part of my training program, which is every half an hour your phone beeps and you put a green dot, a red dot and a blue dot, depending on what task you're doing at that time. Red dots are time wasting activities, and then you have income generating tasks and non-income generating tasks. And the idea is over 21 days, if you can last that long, you should be able to start to remove some of those time wasting activities, or at least delegate some of the activities to other individuals that it might be part of their job role to do, or they want to do it, and actually it frees up time for you to use your time more wisely, create that edge that allows you to achieve a little bit more, perhaps putting in them 1% incremental compound gains every day that make you perform better. How's that for 2 minutes? Is that good?
That's really good. And I thought you were going to be going with the Pomodoro effect, where the time framing, so that's sort of either half an hour or on hours and you focus, but it's a combination of that with like a time emotion study and seeing, okay, over this last half hour, what have I done? And yeah, where am I spending that time? I love that idea. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Again, we tapped into this yesterday on the building pipelines, time management, organization, prioritization. So as I say, that link's coming because it's on an Ask the Coach. So I can't open another one because it'll all go wrong. Do from there is potentially what will happen. So thank you for that. Katrina, was there one bit that you wanted to add?
Oh, no.
Oh, you just unmuted for the end. That's fabulous. So
yeah,
this is our Ask the Coach.
Like that.
all fabulous information for you. Questions get answered, and you should be able to go away there with at least 5 actions of things that you could put into practice based on the answers there. If you are at the Recruitment Agency Expo next week, we look forward to seeing you there. Catherine, Stephen, and I will be there. Katrina, will see you at the Excel in London next year. Brilliant. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.